Welcome to the wonderful world of learning, a new and exciting way for children to learn about nature, wildlife, and conservation through stories. The first is an adventure story called The Squirrel. Chapter 1: In the Forest. It was a lovely, warm, sunny day in autumn. Red the squirrel was leaping from tree to tree in the forest. He was finding pine cones in amongst the needles of the pine trees and squirreling them away for the long, cold winter ahead. Whenever he found one, he would check it to make sure there was nothing wrong with it. Then he would bury it in the ground. Sometimes he'd find a really good one that was too good to resist, so he'd munch away on it and fill up his tummy. This kept him big and strong. He needed lots of energy to do all this climbing and leaping and running and digging. Red was a happy squirrel. He loved his life in the forest. He had lots of friends and everybody liked him. His best friend was Whiskers. He was called that because he had lots of very long whiskers, and he twiddled them when he was thinking. Red was up a tree when he saw Whiskers down on the ground below him. Whiskers was hunting for pine cones that had dropped onto the forest floor. "Hey, Whiskers!" Red called down to him. "How are you doing?" Whiskers looked up with a startled look on his face. He twiddled his whiskers and replied, "How am I doing what, Red?" Red had forgotten that Whiskers took everything literally, so he asked, "How are you, Whiskers?" "Oh, I'm fine, Red. I'm stocking up on food for the winter. How are you?" "I'm really busy. I'd love to stop and chat, but I mustn't waste time. Gotta dash, gotta stash," said Red, as he waved goodbye and leapt away in the treetops. Soon he'd found a lot of pine cones, so he leapt down to the ground and dug a hole with his front claws. In it he dropped all the yummy things he'd found. Then he covered them over with earth. There were lots of red and gold leaves scattered around on the ground. These had fallen from other trees in the forest, such as the mighty oak and silver birch and ash and rowan and wild cherry. He used some of the leaves to cover everything up so nobody would find the secret store for the winter. Then he stood still and twiddled the long red hairs at the ends of his long red ears. He was thinking. "I hope I can remember where all my stores are," he thought. He took a long look around to try to remember this place. Then he heard a familiar, posh voice. "What are you doing there, Red?" He looked up and could see her just above him. She was lying on a branch. It was her ladyship. Whenever he saw her, his heart fluttered and his legs wobbled. He had no idea why. Perhaps it was her fabulous eyes that flashed as she looked at him. Perhaps it was her long, shiny claws that she tapped when she talked. Whatever it was, he got a funny feeling in his tummy, and he went all nervous and shy. "Oh, nothing," he said nervously, as he turned and shuffled his paws to finish off hiding his stash. He then quickly stood on top of it. "Nothing? Really? I do not think so," she said. Then she slowly and gracefully climbed down the tree trunk and walked towards him. He could feel his heart pounding. He could smell the sweet scent of her fur wafting in the breeze. She got closer and closer, then stood beside him. He couldn't move. He was under her spell. He started to sway. would not lie to me, would you, Red?" she asked.
"No, m'lady."
"Are you sure?"
"Yes, m'lady."
"So what are you hiding under your paws?"
She pointed down to the ground with one of her beautiful nails on a beautiful, delicate paw. "Nothing, m'lady."
"Nothing?"
"Yes, m'lady."
She moved to be close to him.
She was almost touching him. He felt her warm breath tickle his nose as she spoke.
"Stand aside, Red, and let me see," she commanded. He shuffled sideways. Nobody disobeyed her ladyship. She looked where he'd been standing, and there was nothing. All she could see was a pile of leaves. She didn't move any of them away. Her ladyship never dug dirt or lifted leaves, because that would damage her beautiful nails. She looked straight at him. She fluttered her eyelashes and flashed her eyes as she stared into his. He couldn't breathe. He felt like he was going to faint. "Okay, Red, I believe you. There is nothing there, so you were indeed doing nothing. You really are a strange squirrel. Everyone is hurrying around, storing food for the winter, and you are here playing with a pile of leaves." She looked at him with a puzzled look. Then she slowly, very slowly, turned to walk away. He relaxed and started breathing again. Then, quick as a flash, she turned around and said, "I wonder if you will ever surprise me and do something to impress me, Red. I wonder." And with that, she turned and leapt high in the air, then bounced away on the forest floor. She was gone. Red breathed a deep breath and sighed a huge sigh. "Phew! That was a close one," he said with relief. He twiddled the long red hairs at the ends of his long red ears and took one last look around to try to remember where the secret store was. "I'll never forget this place," he thought. "It's where I had my close encounter with her ladyship. I'll never forget that." With a smile and a twinkle in his eyes, he bounced across the forest floor and leapt onto a huge red mushroom. There he sat, thinking about what had just happened. He laughed out loud, and the other squirrels looked up from what they were doing. They often saw Red smiling and often heard him laughing. Red was the happy chappy of the forest, and they all loved him for that. There he sat until the light faded and it was time to go to bed. He thought he would sleep well that night, and he did. Written and narrated by Fiona Lunn. Recorded by Tony O'Malley. Produced by Guy Benoit. Illustrations by Sarah Westaway.